Welcome to Wisdom Wednesday. On Wisdom Wednesdays, I share tips on baking that will help you run your plant smoothly. Today, I want to talk about the actual baking in the oven. But before I start, I want to make sure that you do your part to support us at Bakerpedia by buying one of these t-shirts. Right. So all baking nerds need this, right? I mean, this is a flour t-shirt. I mean, flour is the one who holds everything together. Flour is a little bland, but very reliable. And flour loves to be everywhere. So all baking nerds like yourself need a flour t-shirt. So go support us. Buy something from the Bakerpedia t-shirt shop today. Okay? Um, all right, so how many of you still bake like your grandpa? You know, take the bread out of the oven, tap on it, listen to it, think it's hollow, and just say it's done, right? Well, let me tell you, that's not the right way. And let me tell you why today, if you got a few minutes. I like to share and introduce you to thermal profiling, okay? Let me show you how. So what is thermal profiling? It is the use of a thermal logger. Here I have the pedometer from ECD Mole. It is a 3-channel tool that you insert into the bread loaf. So take, for example, this is an unbaked loaf, and you just need to stick it in the center of the bread in the oven, put the whole thing in the oven. This will be an insulator, and it goes through the oven. Okay, so you will get an S curve, and we'll talk a little bit more about it later on. Okay, so let's look at the S curve right now, and we'll go into the detail of what it really means. One of the questions I usually get is asking about setting the oven, right? Most bakers feel like you need to just set it at one temperature and bake it for one time, and that's it for every loaf, you know, every SKU you have, okay? So one temperature, one time. So that's not right. You know, that is not the right way to bake bread. The right way to bake bread is using step temperatures, different steps for different times in the oven spring, the critical change zones, and the arrivals. You want to hit those just right, okay? In the oven, your bread is going to go through those few zones, okay? So the most important point, again, remember, I told you, yeast kill arrival, okay? You need to manipulate your different zones to meet those 50% and 85%, okay? How do you know how to do that? Well, we have a class next week, the Bakerview seminar on thermal profiling for bread products. Go check it out. Sign up today. It's free. Okay, it's sponsored by ECD. That's why it's free. Okay, ECD has hired me to talk about thermal profiling and how you can use thermal profiling to cut back on the baking time. And you know, a lot of bakeries have the bottleneck at the oven. If you can cut back the baking time, oh my God, throughput's gonna go up, okay? Throughput's important, and the oven is mostly the bottleneck of the throughput, okay? So how do you cut baking times? You cut baking times by adding step baking profile to your ovens, okay? So we are going to touch a lot about that next week in the seminar. And another question that's asked frequently is, what is the best baking time and temperature for my bread product? You know, there is no one size fits all, okay? Every hydration level makes a difference. Every loaf size makes a difference. The kind of bread makes a difference. gluten-free, multi-grain, hamburger bun, baguette, bowls, all different profiles. Most importantly is two things: yeast kill and arrival. How fast do you get to those things, and how can you manipulate your oven zones to get to those two key points as soon as you can? All right. So one of the biggest things I see in many bakeries is over baking. Okay, people over bake because they have no idea what the S curve mean. Okay, when you over bake, you dry out the bread so much that the enzymes that you use in your system doesn't work. Okay, now what does over baking mean? Over baking mean being in the bake out zone for more than 15% of the baking time. Okay, so your arrival should be at 85%. Okay, if your arrival is at 75 or 70%, that means you are staying longer in the bake out zone. The longer you stand there, the longer your bread dries out. Okay, it would be great for very, very high hydration breads like ciabatta, you know, like your overnight sourdough, like your multigrain breads, but it's not good at all for any of the white breads or hamburger buns. You know, those kind of breads, you need to remain at 85 to 95% of the arrival, you know. So there's a lot of manipulation of the zone and time temperatures so that you can hit the right bake out. Okay, so I will be covering that, and Ray Pierce from ECD will be joining me next week to answer some questions live. Like I said, you know, each type of bread, like gluten-free, multi-grain, pizza, all have different profiles, and there are variety of problems with yeast kill and arrival times. Every product is unique, but if you are in charge of commercializing gold standard bread products across plants and you're having textural issues, thermal profiling is the #1 tool that can make your job really easy. Okay, so try to use thermal profiling in your baking process, and pretty much I promise not to tell your grandpa that you're using a new way of baking. Okay, so sign up today. All right, go to our Baker Academy and sign up for that particular seminar, and I will see you tomorrow back on Baker TV. Happy Wise Wednesday.